you actually start to get a better sense of what's going on in that foot in general than by an x-ray alone.
I study horses, beauty matched only by their strength. I try and capture a little of that as I move on without your face.
Years ago when I started hand making shoes, I started keeping track of all my measurements and I wrote them down. Every horse, every time. Started seeing patterns in my measurements, and I realized we really need to compile all these in a really scientific way. I hired a woman named Jen Miller, who was amazing, and she gave us a structure and a framework. She gave us a form that kind of walks us through the steps of the trim and the measurements so that we as farriers are really conscious of what we're doing every single time, and we develop a history that we can see in numbers for that horse, and so that we can accomplish a couple goals. We can see if that horse is going wrong by the direction the measurements are going and the relationship the measurements have, and then we can see where that horse is in relationship to most horses, so if it's normal or abnormal. So Jen's helping us compile all these measurements between 3 farriers so that we can figure out if we can make our trim repeatable, consistent amongst multiple farriers.
My biggest ongoing task for Noble Farriery is helping Seth and the other farriers write the curriculum that teaches the signature trim and horsemanship as a holistic methodology. Accurate measurement is the core of this methodology because when you really understand the proper ratios and proportions of horses' feet, you can very often predict what is going right and what is going wrong. Seth has been recording measurements that he has taken from horses for decades, but we didn't have a database where we could track this data and do queries for individual horses and across groups of horses. Jen has been amazing. She is incredibly savvy in both building the form in the database and also analyzing the data. So we've already seen multiple case studies pulled from hundreds of horses and thousands of lines of code, and shows how the methodology really works in identifying and resolving different causes of lameness. Seth is practically working himself to death because he never wants to say no to helping a horse, and he and the other farriers are so in demand because his methodology really does work. If we can just get through this big bottleneck with all these moving parts to get this curriculum out into the world, it means a lot of other horses can be helped. And that is the reason we're all here, even those of us who are not working out in the field. The horses are all that matter. That's obviously the core of our horsemanship philosophy and our horsemanship sodality. But the methodology, the trim, the measurements, the data, all of it has been developed to make sure horses get exactly the care they need, and we owe it to them.
Well, Jen, do you want to update us on your progress both with the data collecting, the perfecting of the systems that we've already been working on, and then your findings on the curriculum platform for the website?
Yes. So it's like all things data all at once. So we just added in from November 13th to February 13th, another 625 unique lines of data from all of the summary visits, which if you think about it, that's at the very least 625 horses that were seen and serviced in that time frame.
Do you think that we'll be able to use, the forms that you've created to collect the data for our research piece?
Yeah, I think it's kind of at the heart of, I think the form work that we did originally kind of became the heart of the project in a way, because not only did it guide how we approached the curriculum, but it became a way for us to assess and monitor the progress of new farriers who come in and would like to learn the methodology. The platform allows us to do a lot of really cool connecting of the dots. In the form, the collection of the data will move with us through the educational process too. It just kind of evolves into something. It's like the guidepost, and then it becomes like the lighthouse, right, for the folks who are learning how to do this. And it becomes our safeguard in certifications and recertifications, so that we always kind of have a way to peek in and see how people are doing. And it's an easier way for them to manage their business too, because the way that those forms are organized, they're not only internal facing, they're external facing. So the customers benefit from getting those recaps as well.
Well, there's so much that I feel like we need to connect a lot, and it's so easy to get off on our own because we're super busy. Well, then in terms of working up here, we just need one more tie. We'll just put bedding twine there and there, and we can attach lead ropes. I'll stand. Chris can give me a leg up. All right. Well, she's done, so let's move her out, and why don't you guys get going on a horse, and we'll figure out crossties here.
So what's the plan? Are you all working on one horse together, or are you?
I'm assuming for now, Seth and Brandon are gonna trim and shape their own shoes, and then Lauren's gonna do anything and everything: emotional support, grinding, pads. I'll probably do a lot of the nailing.
Lauren can keep an eye on everything. Lauren can do everything, and Lauren does not like to stand still. So why don't you check out Brandon's van, kind of get your eye on the workflow, and I'll just tell you what we need.
Our form of taking data has very much evolved over the last year or so. Coming from the vet side, like where everything is written down, everything legally has to be recorded, it felt natural to have notes and numbers and data on these horses. We were taking notes and doing handwritten forms, and it was good, but we wanted to create a way to be able to go back and have a history on these horses that we were getting measurements of and actually have like a database. As our team grew, we started to develop more electronic systems for holding these databases so we can go back and look. We've gone through multiple platforms, and we seem to have landed with our friend Jen on the East Coast with a system that helps us keep track, but also we can export it and look at the data as a whole in very different ways. At each horse, we take notes on our iPads with measurements like dorsal hoof wall measurements, hoof wall angles, the width, and also circumference, which kind of gives us objective data on how the hoof is responding to her shoeing. When you go back to horse time to time, you can have a gut feeling that it's getting better, but this is an objective way that it is getting better or not getting better. We've had to kind of adjust the wellness form for more specific note-taking on each hoof, on each procedure, and we're still developing, the perfect form, but there'll probably never be a perfect form. The goal of the podiatry form is to really have an understanding of the progression of the healing from whatever ailment they have, so you can more appropriately keep track of that over time. We have a certain standard for how we trim and look at feet, and I think getting the data for different horses, because there are defined patterns and ailments that we know about. Our trim style is pretty objective in the way that we do it as a group, so if we have objective data to go along with that, we can more closely associate it to these injuries or patterns that we see in our routine horses.
I've been a project advisor with Noble Farriery for about a quarter now, so about 3 months. And my base role involves the data analytics around the hoof specs or the hoof measurements that Seth and his farrier team take on a daily basis, and helping to create curriculums around our Noble Farrier methodology. The cooperation and communication between farrier, horse care team, and owners and trainers is a cornerstone of this holistic viewpoint. So these values that we share from inside the team when it comes to transparency and communication, and working towards a common goal, we also push out into the world as we work with clients and horses and try to improve the overall culture that surrounds horse care. I'm a lifelong equestrian and horse owner. I've always kind of looked for that place where my skill set and my passions really could intersect. It's always been a dream for me to work inside of that space, and so working with the Noble Farrier team has been kind of a dream come true in that sense for me.
We went to a clinic at Pilchuck Veterinary Hospital last weekend with the lecturer was a podiatrist, a vet, and a farrier. And one of the biggest things I got out of it was how subjective x-rays are based on the angle and the height, and basically on whoever's taking the x-ray can influence what you're able to get out of it. Got me thinking about the way we trim and using all of our different measurements and how they have to correlate to each other. You actually start to get a better sense of what's going on in that foot in general than by an x-ray alone. So all that just gave me more confidence in teaching our trim methodology and its application across the board as a fundamental way of trimming horses.